And welcome to today's Engaging for Missouri webinar. I'm Alice Roach from the Division of Applied Social Sciences at the University of Missouri, and I'll be your host today. With each of these 30-minute webinars, we intend to share research-based insights that leaders like you can apply in your own work to benefit and strengthen the state's agriculture and food system, hospitality sector, and communities. Presenting today are Jacob Stair and Marla Young with the Missouri Agricultural and Small Business Development Authority. Before the presentation begins, I want to share a few housekeeping notes. First, we'll close the webinar today with a question and answer session. Those of you who connected to today's webinar via your computer can submit your questions in the chat screen. So to open the chat, just click the chat button that you see at the menu at the bottom of your Zoom window. If you joined by phone today, then you can email me your questions at roacham@missouri.edu. Second, all attendees are muted and may not start their video. Third, if you encounter any technical problems during the webinar today, then you can let me know either by submitting a comment in the chat screen or sending me an email at roacham@missouri.edu, and I'll do my best to help you troubleshoot. Fourth, we will make a webinar recording available to you. You can look for an email from Zoom that shares more about where you can access that recording in about a day from now. You can also find an archive of all of our previous Engaging for Missouri webinars on our division's YouTube page. So with that, we'll transition to the topic of today's webinar, which is titled Financial Assistance for Missouri's Farms and Rural Businesses. Presenting today are Jacob Stair and Marla Young, who are loan officers with the Missouri Agricultural and Small Business Development Authority. So Jacob, if you could please start your video and unmute your microphone, then we can begin today's presentation.
Thank you, Alice. Like you said, my name is Jacob Stair. I'm a loan officer with Missouri Agricultural and Small Business Development Authority, or MASBDA. And then also on it's Marla Young, our other loan officer. So the authority is administered by a 7-member bipartisan commission appointed by the governor and confirmed by the Senate. The director of the Missouri Department of Agriculture serves as ex officio. We have a number of different programs that support producers and rural businesses here in the state of Missouri. They can generally be broken down into 4 categories. So we've got a few direct loan programs. We've got 2 guarantee programs. We have a few different tax credit programs and then 2 grant programs as well. So before I get into the nitty-gritty of what each program kind of does, I just wanted to address the COVID-19 pandemic that's going on and all of the financial hardships that producers and businesses have been facing over these last couple months. So kind of as our response to this, at our April board meeting, the MASBDA board voted to lower the interest rate for 3 of our direct loan programs. I'll talk a little bit about each one of these in detail, but our down payment loan program, we reduced the interest rate from 4.75% to 3.25%. Our Missouri Agribusiness Revolving Loan Program, we dropped from 5% to 4%. And then on the alternative loan program, we reduced the interest rate from 5.9% to 4%. So this is just part of our way of helping out producers and businesses here in the state. So getting into some of the programs, we'll start off with the loan programs. The first one is our Beginning Farmer Loan Program. This program is designed to assist beginning farmers in Missouri in acquiring agricultural property at reduced interest rates. So this would include agricultural land, buildings, farm equipment, breeding livestock even. Basically, helping somebody get their farm up and running. This is not a direct loan through us. We issue Aggie bonds to participating lenders of the beginning farmer loans. And those lenders receive a tax exemption on income that they earn on the loans made to the beginning farmers. So this kind of maintains the bank's margins, but they're able to pass those tax savings along to the beginning farmers in the form of lower interest rates. Oftentimes we see that the bank partners with USDA, the Farm Service Agency, on a 45-550 partnership, or some other joint participation type program where FSA will take a portion of the project and directly lend the beginning farmer that portion, and then the bank will loan the remainder of the project, and that's what we issue the bond on, would be the bank's portion. The maximum bond amount is currently $552,500, and that's something that's indexed annually. So to us, a beginning farmer is one who has not owned either directly or indirectly more than 30% of the median size farm in their county. So if a median size farm in Cole County is 100 acres, then in Cole County, a beginning farmer would be somebody who hasn't owned more than 30 acres. We do have a couple other restrictions with this program. So after the loan is closed, the borrower's chief occupation must be farming and ranching. And how we look at that is we look to see that gross farm income must exceed gross off-farm income of the principal operator. And then along with this program, there are just a few restrictions about financing residents with this, and then some other depreciable assets in there as well. The next one is our down payment loan program. This is our newest program. So this provides down payment financing for qualifying Missouri producers and businesses. Similar to the beginning farmer program, this can be used to purchase ag land, machinery, equipment, livestock, trees, nursery stock, or specialty crops. And it can also help fund the purchase, construction, or improvement of qualifying agribusiness, ag facilities, or processing facilities. So this can provide a full down payment or supplement the down payment amount available. So this is another program that works with both the borrower and the primary lender. The primary lender says that they're going to require the individual to put down 20%. If they're not able to come up with that, then we can come in and directly lend on that to help secure that financing for the borrower. So with this program, we can fund up to 30% of the purchase price of a project not to exceed $200,000. Like I mentioned earlier, we have a fixed rate on this of 3.25% with the option of a one-time rate change. If we were to drop the rate, somebody could come in and request that we reduce the interest rate to the current rate that we have. And then with this one, the length of the loan is just going to depend on what's being financed. And then this program can be used with other state and federal programs, including FSA participation loan programs. And we actually kind of set this program up to work really well with our beginning farmer loan program. So somebody, if they were to qualify for both, could absolutely use both. The next one is our Missouri Agribusiness Revolving Loan Program. This is another one that we have gone in and dropped the interest rate on. So this program offers financing to value-added agricultural enterprises, ag support businesses, marketers or retailers of ag products, and businesses with emerging ag technology. Projects must be located in Missouri communities with a population of less than 50,000. So for the vast majority of the state, that's typically not going to be an issue. But we do recommend that individuals reach out to us and ask before submitting an application. And then eligible projects include business construction and expansion, purchase of land, buildings, machinery, and supplies. So loan funds with this one may not be used for ag production. So, we can't fund the purchase of seed or fertilizer, but it may be used for business startup costs and working capital for businesses. Loans can fund up to 75% of the project cost if MASBA takes a first lien position on it, or 50% if MASBA takes a second lien position. And with those, we have two different maximum loan amounts. So in the first lien position, we can fund up to 75% of the project cost up to $112,500 or $75,000
So it looks like we've lost Jacob's connection. Let me see if I can connect with him and so he can rejoin our meeting. So I'll be back with you in just a minute. Hi, Jacob. Are you able to reshare your screen?
Yep, I should be able to.
Okay.
I think you need to go ahead and let me get back in.
Okay, you should have access now.
All righty, sorry about that, guys. So for the alternative loan program, this is our smallest loan program. We've got a maximum of 20,000 on this. Like I said earlier, it's a 4% interest rate with a maximum term of 5 years. With this, eligible projects include horticultural production and marketing, aquaculture, organic production enterprises, value-added enterprises, and things like that. So this is another one that may fund working capital for producers and businesses. Now on to our guarantee programs. We've got 2 of them. They work very similarly. The value-added ag Loan Guarantee Program provides 50% first loss guarantee on business development loans for the purpose of processing, manufacturing, marketing, exporting, and adding value to an ag product. Guaranteed portions of the loan cannot exceed $250,000 for land, buildings, and improvements for these value-added businesses, equipment or purchase stock, and a startup producer controlled processing entity. Loan terms cannot exceed 10 years. The single purpose aim of the facilities guarantee is still that 50% first loss guarantee on loans up to $250,000. This can fund the purchase of breeding or feeder livestock, land, buildings and facilities, equipment and machinery, animal waste systems, and then operating expenses and refinancing. So these are going to be your smaller hog barns, smaller chicken barns, or covered breeding facilities for cattle is something we've seen some interest in lately as well. We've got a few different tax credit programs. One that we've seen a lot of interest in here lately is the Meat Processing Facility Investment Tax Credit. This was created to stimulate investment in meat processing in Missouri. So this provides a 25% tax credit on up to $300,000 in investments, so up to a $75,000 tax credit maximum. And then qualifying expenses include building construction, upgrades to utilities, livestock intake and storage equipment, processing, manufacturing, packaging, and handling equipment, warehouse equipment, and then even retail facilities, and then retail equipment, so retail coolers or freezers. So this would be able to help out somebody who is just looking to start up a facility, or it could be an existing facility that is looking to expand their operation. We have our New Generation Cooperative Incentive Tax Credit. So this was created to stimulate producer member investment in new generation processing entities in Missouri that are going to have at least 12 members. Applicants may need to register with the Missouri Secretary of State Securities Division. But this program provides a 50% tax credit of a member's investment of $30,000, so a maximum of $15,000 for a tax credit, depending on total project investment. And then a producer member, in this case, is a person, partnership, corporation, trust, or LLC whose main purpose is ag production that invests cash funds to an eligible new generation cooperative or an eligible new generation processing entity. The Family Farm Breeding Livestock Tax Credit Program is another one of our tax credits. This is one of the more popular programs. I think it's the shortest application, so everybody likes to hear that. But this program provides tax credits to lenders in lieu of the first year's interest being paid on breeding livestock loans made to small farmers. So the producers save a little bit of money because they're not paying that first year's interest on a loan. The bank still sees the benefit in the form of the tax credit. Each small farmer is eligible for only one family farm livestock loan per household and one type of livestock. And then the maximum loan amounts for each type of livestock are on beef and dairy cattle, it's $75,000, and then for sheep, goats, and swine, it's $30,000. And then we have two grant programs. The Value Added Ag Grant Program provides grants for projects that add value to Missouri ag products and aid the economy of a rural community. This is our planning grant, so we can fund the feasibility study for a business, marketing studies and marketing plans, business plan development, prospectus development for cooperatives, and operational consulting. So this is a great option for somebody who has a great idea for a business. They don't know where to start. This is a good option for them to do. And then the maximum grant to any person or group is $200,000 per value-added rural business concept. The last one is the Farm to Table Grant Program. This grant provides funding for Missouri small businesses to access resources for accessing and processing locally grown ag products for use in Missouri institutions. Institutions include, but are not limited to, schools, correctional facilities, hospitals, nursing homes, long-term care facilities, and military bases. So unlike the value-added grant, this can fund some of that equipment, so it can purchase processing and packaging equipment, including coolers, freezers, washing stations for produce, bagging, and packaging equipment. And like the last one, the maximum grant is $200,000 to any eligible entity. So that is all I've got. I definitely encourage, if anybody has any questions, about any of our programs, definitely feel free to reach out. What works for one producer or business may not fit the needs of another one. So we definitely encourage anybody to reach out and talk to us individually about their own situation and needs.
Great, thank you, Jacob. I think Marla is also going to be joining us now for our question and answer session. So if you have a question, go ahead and submit here in the chat screen, or you can also send me an email at roacham@missouri.edu. So to get the discussion started, I'm curious as to whether producers can seek out financing from more than one MASBDA loan or grant program at a time. So for instance, have a grant and a loan, or two different loans at the same time.
They could, provided that the maximum of any program is not being exceeded. And then, it's definitely something that we have seen before with the value-added grant, especially. As part of that feasibility study or business plan, different means of funding businesses might very well be addressed, and MASBDA programs could be a part of that as well. So, if you have, a meat processing plant that goes through the grant and has a feasibility study, that feasibility study might turn up that they could be eligible for one of our loan programs. Definitely the meat processing facility tax credit. So yeah, there is room in there to utilize more than one program.
Great. And how long are the lower rates effective for your down payment, Missouri Agribusiness Revolving Loan, and alternative loan programs?
Definitely through the end of the year. So typically we, examine the interest rates in our January board meeting. So middle of January is when we're probably going to be looking at those again.
Okay. And if someone has an existing loan through one of those programs, then is it possible for that person to reach out to you and visit about reducing the rate that's applied to their loan?
Yeah, absolutely. And we have had a couple reach out, and of our existing customers, we have had a couple reach out. So definitely encourage if somebody is working with us currently that they do reach out, and we can kind of talk about it with them.
Excellent. So if a producer is interested in exploring one of these funding programs, then what steps should that producer take in order to get started?
Kind of like I mentioned in the beginning, reaching out to either myself or Marla as the loan officers. We do have a website, and I don't think I had it anywhere in the presentation, but we're on the Missouri Department of Ag website. On there, under the financial assistance tab, we have a list of all our programs with links to a more full description of the programs, guidelines, and applications as well. So definitely, feel free to for producers or businesses to research those options, but definitely give us a call. We're happy to talk through the options that we have available for businesses, and sometimes we get it where business might call and say, hey, I saw you had this loan or this program available, and we might say, well, that may not work in your situation, but here's something else that we do have. So a lot of that is just done on an individual basis. So definitely feel free to reach out via phone or email.
And something I might add to that is have a budget in mind. Understanding that when you come to us, it may be very early in your planning process, but be thinking about, because the first thing we're going to ask is, okay, are we talking $50,000 project, or is this a $5 million project? So kind of do a little bit of research and put some preliminary numbers together. That always helps.
Excellent, great tip. What considerations does MASBDA make when reviewing loan and grant applications and determining the applications to fund?
So we'll look at a variety of different things. You know, we will look at, to an extent, credit history. We'll look at current financial status of the business or producer. You know, we'll look at what they're wanting to do, what they're going to need funding for. Marla, do you have anything to add?
No, on the loans, that is correct. We will look at repayment capacity and cash flow, credit scores. Now on the grants, on the 2 grant programs, we have a specific scoring criteria that's set out in our program guidelines. It's a 100-point scoring criteria. 50 points, 50% is economic development potential to a rural agricultural community and producers, and more than one producer. So economic development potential, credibility and merit, both of the project and of the project principles. So those grants are scored on a competitive basis using that criteria.
Excellent. You mentioned that a couple of the programs, it's possible to collaborate, if you will, with USDA FSA on programs. So can you give an example of how Mazda has worked with USDA FSA on a given loan project or program for a producer? Sort of how that works?
Sure. So the one that we I would say probably see the most frequently would be on our Beginning Farmer program. So FSA has a couple of different participation loan programs where, you know, a beginning farmer might come to them and FSA would take a portion of the project cost and then the bank would take another portion of the project cost, and the borrower may have to put down, you know, 5% or something. So FSA would directly lend on, let's say, 45% of the project cost at their interest rate for the borrower. And then the bank would lend on the remainder of the project. And that's what we can work with the bank on our Beginning Farmer program for to reduce that interest rate. So that's probably the most common one we see where, you know, we're partnering kind of with FSA and producers local bank.
Great, thank you. From your work and your interaction with Missouri ag lenders lately, how would you describe demand for farm financing options at present?
I'll go ahead. I think folks lenders are optimistic. A lot of them, they're looking at financials very carefully. They're looking at projections very carefully. Jacob mentioned we're getting a lot of interest in meat processing facilities, which may be needed in a lot of local communities. But those lenders are probably having some serious talks with those folks who are looking at expanding or perhaps building new facilities, which are long-term plans, which are long-term projections. As the entire ag community, farm lenders are optimistic, but they're gonna be asking some hard questions.
Absolutely.
Great. Well, thank you both, Jacob and Marla, for sharing today's webinar presentation, and thank you to our audience too. When you exit Zoom, a post-webinar survey will load in your browser. If you could please consider responding, we'll use the results to improve the webinar experience and also brainstorm future webinar topics. Again, you should receive a recorded copy of today's webinar via your email within about a day from now. Our next Engaging for Missouri webinar is on Friday. At that time, Debbie Kelly, who's an extension field specialist in horticulture, will share about farm to consumer direct marketing. So thanks again for joining us and have a great Wednesday.
Thanks, Alice.
Thanks
for having us, Alice.
Yeah, thanks.